Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human ship UES Harmony and watched the alien world grow larger on the main screen. The planet looked strange with its purple oceans and green clouds. 3 moons hung in the dark sky like jewels. This was Zephyr Prime, home to the insect-like aliens called Zephyrians. Jake had been a ship captain for 15 years, but this was his first time meeting a completely new alien race. His hands felt sweaty inside his dress uniform gloves. The future of human and Zephyrian relations depended on the next few days going well. "Captain, we're getting another message from the planet," said Communications Officer Kate Phillips from her station. She was a young woman with red hair who spoke 6 different alien languages. "The Zephyrians want to confirm the dinner arrangements again." Jake nodded. The aliens had been very excited about hosting a feast for the human visitors. They kept talking about their special drinks and foods that no other alien race had ever tried before. It seemed very important to them. "Tell them we're looking forward to it," Jake said. "Ambassador Grant is ready, right?" Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge at that moment. She was a tall woman in her 40s who had spent most of her career dealing with difficult aliens. Her dark blue diplomatic uniform was perfect, and she carried herself like someone who feared nothing. "I'm as ready as anyone can be for dinner, with giant space bugs," Lisa said with a small smile. "Dr. Sullivan has briefed me on their customs. Apparently we have to drink their ceremonial wine or they'll think we're being rude." Dr. Pete Sullivan followed Lisa onto the bridge. He was the ship's expert on alien biology and had spent months studying everything humans knew about Zephyrians. He was a thin man with glasses who always looked worried about something. "The wine is very important to them," Pete said, adjusting his glasses. "They make it from nectar that their workers collect from special flowers. The fermentation process takes years. They say it's so strong that most aliens can't drink it without passing out." "Sounds like a challenge," said Chief Security Officer Amy Brooks as she joined the group. Amy was a tough woman who had served in the military before joining the diplomatic corps. She never went anywhere without her sidearm, even to fancy dinners. "I don't like the idea of our people getting drunk around aliens we barely know." Jake understood Amy's concerns. The Zephyrians were much larger than humans. An adult Zephyrian stood about 8 feet tall and had 4 arms ending in sharp claws. Their insect-like faces made it hard to read their emotions. If something went wrong at dinner, the humans would be badly outnumbered. "We have to take some risks for diplomacy," Lisa said. "The Zephyrians control 3 important trade routes. If we can make a deal with them, human merchant ships won't have to take the long way around their territory anymore. That could save millions of credits and months of travel time." The ship's computer announced that they were approaching the docking station. Through the main screen, Jake could see the alien structure growing larger. It looked like a massive flower made of metal and crystal. Thousands of lights blinked along its surface in patterns that meant nothing to human eyes. "Look at the size of that thing," whispered Kate. The station was at least 10 times bigger than any human space station. Hundreds of alien ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Pete checked his tablet computer. The Zephyrians built that station over 200 years ago. It can hold up to 50,000 aliens at once. Most of them are workers who process goods from all over this part of the galaxy. As their ship moved closer, Jake could see Zephyrian ships everywhere. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like bubbles. All of them had the same purple and gold colors that the Zephyrians loved. "Captain, we're being hailed by station control," Kate said. "They're giving us docking instructions." "Follow their lead," Jake ordered. He turned to his diplomatic team. "Remember, we're here to make friends, not to show off human technology. Let them think they're more advanced than us if it makes them happy." Lisa nodded. "I've dealt with proud alien races before. Sometimes you have to let them feel superior to get what you want." The docking process took 20 minutes. Zephyrian technology was different from human engineering, and the 2 systems had to work together carefully. Finally, the ship settled into its berth with a soft bump. Amy checked her security tablet. "I'm reading hundreds of Zephyrians on the station, but none of them seem to be carrying weapons. Their security appears to be mostly ceremonial." "That's good news," Jake said. "Maybe they really do want to be friends." Pete looked nervous. According to my research, the Zephyrians think of themselves as the most sophisticated race in this part of the galaxy. They believe their culture is more advanced than anyone else's. This dinner isn't just about food. It's about them showing us how much better they are than humans. Let them show off, Lisa said. As long as we get our trade agreement, they can think whatever they want about us. The airlock cycled, and the first Zephyrians came aboard the human ship. They were even more impressive in person than in the pictures Pete had shown them. Their chitin shells gleamed under the corridor lights, and their compound eyes reflected the light like jewels. The lead Zephyrian was the largest Jake had ever seen. He stood nearly 9 feet tall and wore elaborate robes covered in precious stones. When he spoke, his voice buzzed like a giant bee. "Greetings, small humans," the alien said through his translation device. "I am Hive Speaker Zeketh, voice of the Great Queen. We welcome you to our domain. Tonight, you will taste foods and drinks that will amaze your simple minds." Jake felt Amy tense beside him, but Lisa stepped forward smoothly. "We are honored by your invitation, Great Hive Speaker. We look forward to experiencing Zephyrian hospitality." Zeketh's mandibles clicked, and what Pete had said was a sign of pleasure. "Come then, tiny humans. Let us show you wonders beyond your imagination." As they followed the aliens through the station corridors, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this dinner was going to be more complicated than anyone expected. The Zephyrian dining hall was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, supported by pillars that looked like giant tree trunks. Strange, alien music filled the air with sounds like wind chimes mixed with buzzing insects. Hundreds of Zephyrians sat at long tables, their compound eyes reflecting the light from floating crystal lamps. Jake Morrison followed Hive Speaker Zeketh to the head table, where the most important Zephyrians waited. Each alien was bigger than the last, their shells polished to mirror brightness. Their ceremonial robes were covered in symbols that meant nothing to human eyes. "Sit, small humans," Zeketh buzzed, gesturing to chairs that had been specially made for their size. "Tonight you will experience the greatest honor our people can give. You will taste the sacred wine of the deep hives." Lisa Grant took her seat and smiled politely. "We are grateful for this honor, Great Hive Speaker." Dr. Pete Sullivan sat down carefully, looking around at all the alien faces, watching them. His studies had told him that Zephyrians found human expressions hard to read, just like humans found theirs mysterious. Amy Brooks chose a seat where she could see all the exits, her hand resting casually near her weapon. The feast began with strange foods that Pete had prepared them for. There were fruits that tasted like metal, vegetables that changed color when you touched them, and proteins that nobody wanted to ask about too closely. The humans ate politely and made appreciative sounds even when the food tasted terrible. "Your people eat very little," observed Subspeaker Vextar, a Zephyrian with blue-tinted shell segments. "Are you afraid of our superior cuisine?" "We want to save room for everything," Kate Phillips said diplomatically. "Each dish is so interesting that we want to try them all." The Zephyrians seemed pleased by this answer. They chittered among themselves in their own language, which sounded like a swarm of angry bees. Pete wished he understood what they were saying, but human linguists had only learned basic Zephyrian so far. As the meal continued, Jake noticed that the aliens kept looking at each other in ways that seemed meaningful. There were subtle movements of antennae and clicking sounds that weren't part of normal conversation. Something was happening that the humans weren't supposed to understand. "Now comes the moment you have been waiting for," Zeketh announced, rising to his full impressive height. "Bring forth the sacred wine." A procession of worker Zephyrians entered the hall carrying ornate containers. The vessels were made from some kind of purple crystal that seemed to glow from within. Each container was the size of a human head and covered with carved symbols. "This wine has aged for 50 of your Earth years," Zeketh explained. "It is made from the nectar of the 1,000-flower gardens, fermented in the deep caves where our ancestors first learned the secrets of transformation." The workers began pouring the wine into goblets that matched the containers. The liquid was deep red with gold flecks that swirled like tiny stars. Even from a distance, Jake could smell its strong, sweet scent. No alien race has ever consumed our sacred wine without being overwhelmed by its power, continued another Zephyrian leader. Many have tried. All have failed. It is too potent for lesser beings. What the humans couldn't see was the private conversation happening between the Zephyrian leaders through scent chemicals and antenna movements. In their hidden communication, they were discussing the special additives that had been mixed into the human portions. The wine had been enhanced with concentrated neurotoxins extracted from the most dangerous predators of Zephyr Prime. The toxins were designed to shut down nervous systems and cause immediate unconsciousness. The Zephyrians planned to interrogate the unconscious humans about Earth's military capabilities and weaknesses. "This is a test, isn't it?" Lisa asked, accepting her goblet from a worker. "You want to see if humans are tough enough to handle your strongest drink?" "Perhaps," Zekth replied, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. "Many species think they are strong until they meet Zephyrian wine." Amy looked at her goblet suspiciously. The wine smelled wrong somehow, with an undertone that reminded her of cleaning chemicals, but refusing to drink would be a major insult, and the diplomatic mission would fail. Pete examined his goblet with scientific interest. The fermentation process must be fascinating. On Earth, we have drinks that are sometimes quite strong too. "Nothing like this," buzzed Subspeaker Vextar confidently. "Your primitive chemistry cannot create anything approaching our sophistication." The Zephyrians watched with barely hidden excitement as the humans prepared to drink. Some of them were already mentally preparing questions for the interrogation. Others were calculating how long it would take for the toxins to work. "A toast then," Lisa said, raising her goblet, "to friendship between our peoples." "To the strength of Zephyrian culture," Zekth replied, raising his own goblet filled with ordinary wine. Jake lifted his drink and looked around the table at his crew. Amy gave him a tiny nod. Kate smiled encouragingly. Pete adjusted his glasses nervously. Whatever happened next would determine the future of human and Zephyrian relations. "To new friendships," Jake said, and brought the goblet to his lips. The humans drank deeply from their goblets while dozens of Zephyrian eyes watched every movement. The wine was indeed strong, with a burning sensation that reminded Jake of his grandfather's homemade whiskey. It had an odd chemical aftertaste that he couldn't identify. The Zephyrians waited for the humans to collapse. Their internal clocks were counting down the seconds until the neurotoxins would take effect. First would come dizziness, then confusion, then complete unconsciousness. But the seconds passed and the humans remained upright. Lisa set down her empty goblet and smiled. "That's quite good. Very complex flavor profile. There's something unusual about it, though. What did you add to give it that extra bite?" The Zephyrians stared in shock. The humans were not only conscious, but were analyzing the taste of their poison like wine critics. "This reminds me of a Tennessee moonshine I had once," Jake said thoughtfully. "Same kind of burn going down, but this has more floral notes." Pete nodded enthusiastically. "The fermentation creates some interesting chemical compounds. I'd love to study your process sometime." Amy drained her goblet completely and looked around for more. "Not bad. A little sweet for my taste, but it's got character." The Zephyrian leaders exchanged panicked glances through their secret communications. The neurotoxins should have dropped a creature twice the size of a human. Instead, these small aliens were treating their most deadly poison like a recreational beverage. "Perhaps," Lisa said politely, "we could have another round? This wine really is exceptional." Zekth's compound eyes went wide with horror. Hive speaker Zekth felt his compound eyes twitch as he watched the human called Jake Morrison casually swirl the remaining wine in his goblet like he was enjoying a pleasant evening drink. This was impossible. The toxins in that wine could kill a Gredonian battle beast, and those creatures weighed 3 times more than any human. The other Zephyrian leaders around the table were sending frantic scent signals to each other. Their antennae quivered with messages of confusion and growing fear. Subspeaker Vextar's shell was actually changing color slightly, which only happened when a Zephyrian was under extreme stress. "This is really interesting," Dr. Pete Sullivan said, examining his empty goblet. The way the alcohol interacts with those secondary compounds creates a unique burning sensation. On Earth, we have something similar in drinks like absinthe or overproof rum. Lisa Grant nodded in agreement. I was thinking the same thing. It reminds me of a bottle of Everclear I tried in college. That was 190 proof, if I remember correctly. The Zephyrians had no idea what these strange human terms meant, but the casual way the humans discussed their deadly poison was deeply disturbing. Zekth's mandibles clicked nervously as he tried to understand what was happening. You speak of other drinks from your world, Zekth said carefully. Are they similar to our sacred wine? Oh, some are much stronger, Kate Phillips said cheerfully. I grew up in Kentucky where my uncle made moonshine. He had stuff that would strip paint off a wall. This is actually pretty smooth compared to that. Amy Brooks was studying the other Zephyrians at the table with professional interest. Years of security training had taught her to read body language, and these aliens were clearly upset about something. Their posture had changed completely since the humans had finished drinking. Is everything okay? Amy asked innocently. You all look a little nervous. Nervous? Zekth's voice buzzed higher than before. Why would we be nervous? I don't know, Amy said with a shrug. It's just that everyone got really quiet after we drank the wine. Usually when humans share drinks, the party gets louder, not quieter. Jake was beginning to notice the strange atmosphere too. The hundreds of other Zephyrians in the Great Hall had stopped their conversations and were all staring at the human table. The background music had even stopped playing. Maybe they're impressed that we could handle their strong wine, Jake said, to his team in English. They did say no other aliens had ever managed to drink it. What Jake didn't realize was that several of the Zephyrians understood basic English from their trade dealings with human merchants. When they heard this comment, their panic increased even more. Subspeaker Vextar leaned close to Zekth and whispered urgently in their own language. Great speaker. What if they have some kind of advanced medical technology? Nanomachines. In their blood that neutralize toxins? That must be it, Zekth replied quietly. No natural biological process could protect them from the deep cave toxins. They must have artificial enhancement. But even as he said it, Zekth wasn't entirely convinced. The humans showed no signs of any technology at all. No visible implants, no energy readings, no chemical signatures that their sensors could detect. They appeared to be completely natural beings. Pete was still talking about the wine with scientific enthusiasm. The fermentation process must create some really complex alcohol compounds. We have drinks on Earth that reach 60 or 70% alcohol by volume. Some of our industrial alcohols go even higher, though people don't usually drink those. 70%? Vexitar's voice cracked slightly. You consume liquids that are 70% alcohol? Oh sure, Pete said casually. There's this stuff called spiritus that's like 95% alcohol. Most people don't drink it straight, but some do. Then there are things like pure grain alcohol that's basically liquid fire. The Zephyrians were exchanging increasingly frantic scent messages. The humans were describing consuming substances that would be lethal to most known species. Either they were lying, or they were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Of course, that's nothing compared to some of the traditional drinks, Lisa added. I've heard stories about Viking warriors drinking something called berserker, mead that was supposed to make them fearless in battle. And there are Russian traditions of drinking pure ethanol in winter. Jake decided to join the conversation. My grandfather used to tell stories about prohibition in America. People would drink anything with alcohol in it, even if it was dangerous. Wood alcohol, denatured spirits, homemade stuff that could blind you or kill you, but they drank it anyway. You drink poison? Zeketh asked faintly. Well, technically alcohol is a poison, Pete said matter-of-factly. The human liver is just really good at processing it. We've been drinking fermented beverages for thousands of years, so our bodies adapted to handle it. Amy was watching the Zephyrians more closely now. Their behavior was definitely strange. Some of them looked like they were about to panic, and others kept looking toward the exits. Something was definitely wrong. You know what? Amy said suddenly. I think I'm starting to feel the effects of your wine. It's got a nice warm feeling, like good whiskey. This was a lie. Amy felt completely normal except for a slight pleasant buzz, but she wanted to see how the Zephyrians would react to the idea that their poison was finally working. Instead of looking relieved, the aliens looked even more frightened. Zekth's antennae were practically vibrating with stress signals. "Perhaps," Zekth said carefully, "you would like to rest? Your quarters have been prepared." "Rest?" Jake laughed. "The night is young. On Earth, when we break out the good stuff, that's when the real party starts. Got any more of that wine?" The request sent a wave of horror through the Zephyrian leadership. More wine meant more toxins, and somehow these humans were not only surviving their poison, but actually enjoying it. "I think," Lisa said, noticing the aliens' distress, "we might be overwhelming our hosts. Perhaps we should pace ourselves." But the damage was already done. Word was spreading through the Great Hall among the other Zephyrians. The humans had consumed enough neurotoxin to kill a dozen warriors, and were asking for more. Stories were already being created about these impossible creatures who drank poison for pleasure. In the corner of the hall, a group of Zephyrian scientists were having an urgent conference. If the humans could survive their most potent biological weapons this easily, what other impossible abilities might they possess? Were they actually the harmless traitors they claimed to be, or were they something far more dangerous? Zekth realized that everything about this first contact had gone wrong. Instead of demonstrating Zephyrian superiority, they had revealed that humans were apparently immune to their greatest weapon. The balance of power had shifted completely, and the night was far from over. Dr. Pete Sullivan was having the time of his life. He had found 3 Zephyrian scientists who were eager to discuss fermentation processes, and the conversation was getting more interesting by the minute. What he didn't realize was that his casual comments about human drinking habits were causing a complete breakdown in alien military planning. "So you're telling me," buzzed Science Keeper Hicksnall, "that humans regularly consume ethyl alcohol in concentrations that would be fatal to most species?" "Oh, absolutely," Pete said, adjusting his glasses enthusiastically. "Beer is usually around 5% alcohol, wine is about 12 to 15%, and spirits can be anywhere from 40 to 95%. Some people drink the really strong stuff straight, no mixing." The 3 Zephyrian scientists exchanged terrified scent signals. Hicksonall's assistant, a younger alien named Kexty, was frantically taking notes on a crystalline tablet. "And this causes no permanent damage?" Kexty asked in disbelief. "Well, if you drink too much too fast, you get something called alcohol poisoning," Pete explained. "But most humans can process moderate amounts just fine. Our livers have enzymes, specifically for breaking down alcohol. It's actually pretty amazing how well adapted we are to it." Jake Morrison was at another part of the table, telling war stories to a group of Zephyrian military leaders. What started as casual conversation was turning into something that sounded like a horror movie to his audience. "So there I was in this bar on Tau Ceti Station," Jake said, gesturing with his hands. "The Arcturian pirates thought they could outdrink a human crew. Bad mistake. My engineer Ben Carter drank 3 of them under the table with nothing but cheap synthetic whiskey." The Zephyrian warriors listened with growing alarm. In their military tradition, the ability to resist toxins was a sign of either superior genetics or advanced technology. Either way, it meant these humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. "Your engineer defeated 3 Arcturian warriors in combat?" asked war speaker Zikros. "Combat?" Jake laughed. "No, it was just a drinking contest. Though I guess the Arcturians thought it was some kind of test of strength. They kept buying stronger and stronger drinks, trying to prove they were tougher than humans." "And your engineer won?" "Won easy. Ben's from Texas. He's been drinking since he was 16. Takes more than alien liquor to slow him down." Across the hall, Amy Brooks was inadvertently terrorizing a group of Zephyrian security officers with stories of human law enforcement traditions. "We had this thing called prohibition back in the 1920s, Amy explained. "The government banned alcohol completely. You know what happened? People made their own in bathtubs and basements. They drank stuff that was so strong it could blind you. Or kill you. But they drank it anyway because they wanted alcohol that badly." Security Chief Bexnell's mandibles were clicking rapidly with stress. Your people chose to consume deadly toxins rather than obey the law? Pretty much, Amy said with a grin. Americans don't like being told what they can't drink. There were underground bars called speakeasies where people would go to drink illegal alcohol. The police would raid them, but new ones would open up the next day. Your law enforcement could not stop this behavior? Some of the police were customers, Amy admitted. Hard to enforce a law when half the cops think it's stupid. Meanwhile, Kate Phillips was explaining human social customs to a group of confused Zephyrian cultural experts. Drinking is a major part of human social interaction, Kate said. We have business meetings over drinks. We celebrate with champagne. We toast at weddings. We have wine with dinner. College students have entire parties based around drinking games. Games? Cultural analyst Nexavar's voice pitched higher with confusion. You play games while consuming toxins? Sure. Beer pong, flip cup, quarters, never have I ever. Some of them are designed to make you drink more, faster. You deliberately try to poison yourselves more efficiently? Kate paused, realizing how this might sound to aliens. Well, when you put it that way, it does sound kind of crazy. But it's fun. Most humans have good memories of drinking with friends. Lisa Grant had been listening to all these conversations while keeping an eye on the increasingly agitated Zephyrian leadership. As a trained diplomat, she could see that something important was happening even if she didn't understand exactly what. The breakthrough came when Pete started discussing the biology of alcohol tolerance with the Zephyrian scientists. The interesting thing, Pete said, is that alcohol is technically a cellular toxin. It damages cell membranes and disrupts normal metabolic processes. But humans have been drinking fermented beverages for at least 10,000 years, maybe longer. 10,000 years. Hicksnell's compound eyes went wide. Your species has been consuming poison for 10,000 years? At least. Archaeological evidence suggests that some of the earliest human civilizations were built around brewing. We may have invented agriculture just so we could make better alcohol. You changed your entire way of life to produce toxins more efficiently? Pete nodded, enthusiastically. There's even a theory that alcohol helped drive human brain development. The calories from fermented fruit might have supported our larger brains, and the social aspects of drinking helped build complex societies. The Zephyrian scientists were sending frantic messages to their leadership. The implications were staggering. If humans had been consuming toxins for thousands of years, their biology would have adapted in ways that other species couldn't imagine. Jekth received the scientific report and felt his worldview crumbling. The humans weren't using advanced technology to neutralize the toxins. They weren't wearing protective equipment. They had actually evolved to process deadly chemicals as a normal part of their biology. Great speaker, Subspeaker Vextar whispered, urgently. If they can survive our neurotoxins this easily, what else can they survive? Radiation, biological warfare, chemical weapons? Jekth didn't want to think about the answer. A species that had spent millennia building tolerance to poison might be resistant to all kinds of things that would kill other aliens. But the worst realization was still coming. War Speaker Zikaros approached the head table with a look of absolute terror in his compound eyes. Great Speaker, Zikaros said quietly. I need to report something disturbing. The human captain has been telling stories about their military history. They describe conflicts where their soldiers consumed alcohol before battle to reduce fear and pain sensitivity. They used toxins to enhance combat performance? That's not the worst part. He mentioned something called liquid courage and described human warriors fighting while intoxicated. If they can function normally while poisoned, and they actually use poison to improve their fighting ability. Jekth felt his legs weaken. The Zephyrians had not only failed to poison the human delegation, they had accidentally revealed that humans were essentially immune to biological warfare. And worse, the humans seemed to think consuming poison made them stronger. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't just resistant to Zephyrian weapons. They had turned one of nature's most fundamental dangers into a recreational activity. What kind of terrifying evolutionary pressure could have produced such creatures? Looking around the Great Hall, Jekth saw his people's confidence crumbling. Word was spreading that the humans drank poison for fun. Some of the younger Zephyrians were already backing toward the exits. The diplomatic dinner had become a nightmare, and the night was far from over. Ambassador Lisa Grant had been watching the Zephyrians carefully for the past hour, and she was starting to understand that something very important had happened at this dinner. The aliens who had been so confident and proud when the evening began now looked like they had seen a ghost. The change was obvious once you knew what to look for. Zekth's antennae drooped instead of standing tall. Sub-speaker Vextar kept glancing at the exits like he wanted to run away. The other Zephyrian leaders were huddled together, whispering in their buzzing language and sending worried scent signals to each other. Lisa was a professional diplomat who had spent 20 years learning to read alien body language. Whatever the Zephyrians had planned for tonight, it had gone very wrong from their perspective. "Great Hive Speaker," Lisa said politely. "I hope we haven't disappointed you in any way. You seem troubled." Zekth's compound eyes focused on her with what looked like fear. "Disappointed? No, Ambassador Grant. You have exceeded all expectations." "I'm glad to hear that," Lisa replied. "Your sacred wine was truly exceptional. I hope this means our peoples can work together in the future." The way Zekth flinched at the mention of the wine confirmed Lisa's suspicions. Something about that drink had been very important to the Zephyrians, and the human reaction to it had shocked them. Captain Jake Morrison noticed the change in atmosphere too. His years of command experience had taught him to recognize when a situation was shifting in his favor. The Zephyrians had started the evening acting like they were superior beings dealing with primitive humans. Now they were treating the human delegation with something that looked a lot like respect, mixed with fear. "Perhaps," Jake said carefully, "we should discuss the trade agreements that brought us here tonight." Zekth's mandibles clicked nervously. "Yes, of course, trade. We should discuss trade immediately." The speed of his agreement was surprising. When the humans had first arrived at the station, the Zephyrians had insisted that trade negotiations would take many days and would depend on proving human worthiness. Now Zeketh seemed eager to get the discussion started right away. Dr. Pete Sullivan was still talking with the Zephyrian scientists, completely unaware of the diplomatic drama happening around him. His enthusiasm for sharing knowledge was accidentally making the aliens even more nervous. "The really fascinating thing about human alcohol tolerance," Pete was saying, "is that some populations have higher resistance than others. People from certain regions can drink amounts that would be fatal to other humans." Science Keeper Hicksonall made a strangled buzzing sound. "Fatal to other humans? You mean some of your people are more resistant to toxins than others?" "Oh sure," Pete said cheerfully. "Genetic variations mostly. Irish people are famous for being able to drink a lot. Russians too. Some Native American populations have lower tolerance, but others have really high resistance." "Your species has specialized poison-resistant subspecies?" Kexty asked faintly. "I wouldn't call them subspecies," Pete corrected. "More like regional adaptations. It's pretty common in biology." Amy Brooks was starting to put the pieces together. The Zephyrians' strange behavior, their obsession with the wine, the way they kept staring at the humans like they were dangerous animals. It all pointed to one conclusion. "You tried to poison us," Amy said suddenly. The great hall fell completely silent. Every Zephyrian in the room froze like they had been caught doing something wrong. Zekth's antennae twitched frantically. We would never." "It's okay," Amy said with a dangerous smile. "I'm not angry. I'm actually impressed. That wine had something extra in it, didn't it? Something that was supposed to knock us out or make us sick." Lisa felt her diplomatic instincts kick in. This was a delicate moment that could either destroy the negotiations or give humanity a huge advantage. "Great Hive Speaker," Lisa said calmly. "I believe there may have been a misunderstanding about human physiology." Zekth looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "The wine, it was enhanced with certain compounds. We believed you would be affected." "Affected how?" Jake asked. "Unconscious," Zekth admitted quietly. "We wanted to test your resilience," Kate Phillips laughed. Test our resilience with alcohol? That's like testing a fish's ability to swim. The admission changed everything. The Zephyrians had tried to use their most potent biological weapon against the humans, and it had failed completely. Worse, the humans had enjoyed it and asked for more. So, Lisa said thoughtfully, I assume this means you're ready to negotiate seriously now? Zekth's response was immediate. What do you want? The question caught Lisa off guard. She had prepared for days of difficult negotiations, with the Zephyrians demanding proof of human worthiness and technological capability. Instead, they were asking what humanity wanted as if they were afraid to refuse. Well, Lisa said, consulting her notes, we were hoping for access to 3 trade routes through your territory, standard merchant protection, and perhaps some technology exchange. Granted, Zeketh said immediately. All of it? All of it, and we would like to add additional benefits. Free fuel at our stations, priority docking rights, escort services for valuable cargo. Lisa blinked in surprise. That's very generous. We value our friendship with humanity, Zekth said quickly. Perhaps we could also arrange for cultural exchanges. Our young people would benefit from learning about human resilience and adaptability. Subspeaker Vextar leaned forward eagerly. Yes, and perhaps humans could teach us about your survival techniques. Your ability to process toxins could be very valuable knowledge. Amy grinned. You want us to teach you how to drink? Among other things, Vextar admitted. Jake realized that the balance of power had shifted completely. The Zephyrians weren't just offering trade agreements. They were practically begging for human alliance. Their failed attempt to poison the Kyr delegation had backfired so badly that they now saw humans as incredibly dangerous potential enemies who needed to be kept happy at all costs. I think we can work something out, Jake said diplomatically. Over the next 2 hours, the negotiations proceeded faster than anyone had expected. The Zephyrians agreed to everything the humans asked for and offered additional benefits that hadn't even been discussed. They seemed desperate to make sure that humanity would be a friend rather than an enemy. As the evening wound down, Pete finally understood what had happened when one of the Zephyrian scientists explained their perspective. Your people consume poison for pleasure, Hicksonall said with a mixture of awe and terror. For 10,000 years you have been building resistance to toxins that would kill our warriors. What other impossible abilities do humans possess? Pete realized that the casual drinking stories he had been sharing weren't just interesting cultural information to the aliens. They were proof that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. The diplomatic mission that was supposed to take weeks was completed in a single night. As the humans prepared to return to their ship, Zekth made one final request. Ambassador Grant, he said carefully, when you return to Earth, please inform your leaders that the Zephyrian Hive values human friendship above all other alliances. I'll be sure to tell them, Lisa replied. And perhaps, Zekth added nervously, you could mention that we would never want to be humanity's enemy? Lisa smiled. I think that message will be well received. As the human delegation walked back, through the station corridors, Jake couldn't help but chuckle. What's so funny? Amy asked. We just became the most feared species in this sector, Jake said. Because we can drink beer. Kate laughed. Wait until they find out about college spring break. The implications would ripple through Zephyrian society for generations. Humanity had accidentally revealed that they were immune to biological warfare, resistant to chemical weapons, and consumed deadly toxins as a recreational activity. The story would spread to other alien civilizations, creating a reputation that would make first contact much easier in the future. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy happened by accident.